Hello and welcome to another ARCHLine.XP webinar. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Over here is our resident architect, Mr. Illés. Hi there. Today we have a show centered around Live for you, and the perspective is how to use it for interior design projects. So make sure you ask your questions and enjoy the show. So before we dig in, for those of you who are new to the topic, can you tell in a few words what ARCHLine.XP Live actually is? We do have a video, so let me know when you want me to roll it.
Yeah, just in a nutshell, this is a powerful archviz tool that today we will use for interior design, and in an upcoming session we will also talk about the architectural visualization, focusing on a building itself, this time onto an interior. And today we would like to cover a few things that we did not have the chance to talk about yet. You will see quite a few of them in this upcoming promo, and then when we come back we will focus on the project itself, so enjoy the show.
Impressive stuff. So what are we going to discuss regarding that? What are you going to show us today?
The project might be familiar for those of you following our sessions regularly. This is an interior design project from one of our users. But today we will show a few things that are kind of things that we didn't talk about yet.
Yes.
And also would like to focus on how to use Live when you work on an interior design project. So now the project that we have created is in ARCHLine, the design system itself. You can see that we have all the views and all the materials. Let me just use my mouse and try to find it on the screen. I lost it for a while. So
Yes.
it's just the few views that we have here is for the bathtub. I'm using the page up, page down in the design system to focus from one view to another one. These are the things that we saved previously, and this is what we will use during work, and this is what we use for the communication with the client as well. And all those views, just as you know it already, those were passed to the archviz tool. Also,
Question here is that when are you passing the model onto Live? When you are done with the project or while you are working?
Well, usually I prepare the project as much as I can. So I would kind of, how to say, easily understand what changes I make. So it doesn't have to be fully finished, even not like a concept. This here, what you see on screen, is not finished. We will make changes on the fly, and we will show you how to follow those changes when you already have something in live. So this is what we will focus on. So now what you see is just the first version of this interior design, with the bathtub, with the bidet, for example, or anything that we have in this project. So we will pass this with the materials also on the surfaces. So that's also an important thing, that we not only have all the views, but we also have these textures and the way they behave. This is what we call in ARCHLine render styles. Now, there are two ways to find what sort of render styles you have with the surface. One is if you right click on a surface and you say you would like to find a material, and then the software tells this is actually a ceiling, and then here you can change it to something else. Or another way is that you use the render styles. Now, the render styles are exactly the same thing. Those are not materials. So if I just click and drag it here, it won't change the texture. It just changes how it behaves, how it reflects light, how bright it is, how rough it is, or something like that. So for example, for the sake of this this demonstration, I will change a few things. Like for example, this is obviously a glass surface. So I will just click and drag, release, and click there. And for example, I would like to make sure that all those surfaces on the wall, which are tiled, those are glossy. So I can either use a metallic material, a wall material, a wood, or I can use something called marble, or I prefer to use many times the glossy coverings, because it has a nice default setting. It's quite glossy, so I just click here and here, because I use two different materials on the two different surfaces.
How do you actually track what you have done? Because apparently we don't really see the result of the render styles. So how do I actually know what I have assigned render styles to?
Yeah, instead of continuously keep finding them and changing their material settings, like when you are in the render styles mode, when you hover your mouse over a surface, it tells you whether this is an by appearance, it's a glossy covering. By appearance, this is matte. I leave it intentionally matte. I will change it later. And by default, this is, for example, glass, and I don't want this to be a glass surface. So I just change it to water. So I just click and drag and release and click here. It seems like I changed the texture, but really I changed its behavior. So the texture is the same, but how it behaves, it changed. Now, the color-coded view is a useful view, and kind of an analytic view, when you can see whether those surfaces, these appear in purple. And the reason why they do that is because I applied the glossy covering, and you can see that tiny square, it's the same purple color. So I can see that here and here and here I have glossy coverings. Here this is a ladder surface, and so on and so on. So it's easy to check whether I did all the things that I wanted. And when I click on back, I just go back to the regular view, and everything comes back to how it should be when I just create the visual design.
I notice you have a few lamps here as well.
Yes. I have added, the original designer of this project added a few beautiful lights here, lamps, like kind of chandelier-like objects. And also there is something here in the basins view, which we already have 3 spotlights and 2 decorative lights. Now these are all real lamps. The difference in the software between the light source and the lamp itself is that the lamp is an object with light sources, at least one. So you can see that it has a nice light bulb here, and it's a regular light with a luminous flux efficiency 1700. So it will bright up the scene enough. If I would like to, I can boost it, but I'm fine with that. So I have all those lights. And talking about lights, we also, of course, have the natural light, the sun itself, and that is based on the geolocation that you have set up for the project. Now, there are 2 ways to do that. Here, you can find this north direction. If you click on that, you can just change the north direction, and you can always compare this with the original 2D view. So that's how you determine where the north sign should lie. And also you have the option to go to the file BIM project parameters, and here you can actually set up the project location and geolocation either on Google Earth or just using a predefined city list. And then once you have that, you can also check how it looks like before doing anything with that. In that case, you just go to view and you use the shadow simulation, and then I just hit OK. And then you can just either move this sun symbol, or you can just change the time and check whether you like the result or not. And later, of course, you can change this in live. We will show you that. So this is how you set up the lights, the artificial lights, sunlight, materials, all the views, and actually we also have an animation. We created an extra animation here. This is here on the 2D.
That dotted line over there.
Yeah. But by default it does not look like that. I changed it so it will be more obvious. It's originally it's just a line. If you go to the animation path, here this is where you can define the path. It's actually a camera animation, so you won't animate the doors or something like that. You animate the camera as it passes by things. This is what I did. We have a session about that, so I won't go into the details. I just show you that this is how I created, and the animation itself is the create animation is there to check. If I just play it, this is a very simple short shot. Which I will use, and later I will extend with additional shots, and this is what we will use at the end for the final presentation.
So the project is ready to be moved to live.
Yes,
right?
yes.
How do you do that?
So everything that we see on screen now, everything that we have in the 3D space, I mean, this is really what we have here. This is a building itself with a very basic surrounding. So this is what we will pass, and I mean, I'm just going back to the original view. So everything that we have in the model will be passed when I use this ARCHLine.XP live option. See, you also have a sync option. We will use that as well. But now first, I will just pass the model to live. Now, initially, I could have used any of those two options. Both would just open up live and visualize the content that we have here. Now, it takes a little while. I hope we won't lose the connection with this is a remote computer that we are connecting to. How
many times do you have to wait for the model to be processed?
Well, it depends on the size of the model. Now, this is a relatively dense model already, so it will take around a minute or 1.5, as you can see. And then you are there with all the views. These are all the reflective, nice, beautiful views with a simple representation yet, because we did not further detail the visuals, but those are already there, and I can just pick my mouse and select any of my existing views here, navigate through all of them, use them for my work, and whatever I see on screen, it's already existing on the computer as an image file. So these are already there, and even as an intermediate visual, I can already send it to my clients. Okay, this is what we talked about. I will work on that, but as you can see, those are all the nice reflective surfaces and so on and so on. So we can already use this as a discussion. It took really literally seconds to generate the software.
You could send it right away.
Yeah, I can send it over.
But in what kind of resolution? How do you set that up?
Well, the resolution matches my screen resolution, and it's because of the settings. Here you can go to the settings of the software, to the options, and you can change it to any sort of fixed resolution. So this is where you determine what sort of resolution the snapshots, the rendered images will have, and those will take seconds to create, and also for the final rendered animations as well. We will discuss that later, but that controls also the resolution of the animations.
Before you do any kind of editing, let's go to one of our views and see, can we actually change the result right now? Maybe you want to give another effect.
Yes.
Change the contrast, for example.
Yes, I can also change that. But before I do that, let me just focus on 2 other things that we discussed, because now we can easily remember what we have done. Let's focus on the materials first, because as you remember, I just changed the material settings, and I made these 2 surfaces glossy coverings. And as I can see, these are quite reflective. It's nice. This is what I wanted, but still I can change them here in live. So whenever I select a surface and I click on this icon, this is for editing the materials, and I can just dial up or dial down the brightness, change it real time, change the reflection, which is very nice, very cool effect here. I can change the roughness also for the floor, because here and there I used similar but 2 different materials, so I can and I just made it for the freedom of design, so I can just separately control them the way I want. So let me just change the roughness here on the floor as well, and change the reflectivity a little bit, dial it down. and so on. So this is what I do, and by default, which is very visual, I also have a water surface here, and as you can see, it's nicely flowing. So the reason why the software understood that this should be animated is because in ARCHLine, in the design software, I told this is a water surface. So now Live automatically applied a living flowing water surface, and I can go to the settings here, I mean to the libraries here at the right hand side. Actually, you can find the navigator, which is for the library panel. Here you can turn it on and off, and there you can find all the objects and you can find all the materials. Now here in the material library, I will just focus on a few, because here in this design I have quite a few glass surfaces, like for example this one here. I can apply them onto both surfaces, or I can enable this option to, just change it everywhere. I just use this dark glass here and there. So I think I will just keep this. This is what I usually do this for this presentation, because this looks cool. And then the same thing goes for the water surface. So here I can just use pool water, which looks cool. I can test the clean water, which is, well, I cannot see the reflection so much, so I will just use this one instead of that. Whichever. But yeah, I can just use whichever I like. And then I just focus on a few of those metal surfaces before we go on, and we will discuss what sort of camera effects I can apply. And that is, one is the this dark metal here. I have quite a few nice chromatic surfaces here. Like I will just use this here and there. Let me just focus on this area here behind, because those should also be chrome surfaces. I will show you actually in a while how I could fix that in the design system itself, and then resync the changes. But if I would like to make an individual change here inside the design, then I would do this on my own. So I think I've done most of the things that I wanted. I changed, and let me just undo this. I think it's cool if it's darker. And then, well, for example, here, this here, I just wanted to change to something of a chrome surface, and this should be.
Wasn't glossy enough. I wonder where you want to fix that.
Yes. That is also something that I will fix. I will just change the roughness of this leather surface a little bit. And here, as I mentioned, this is a mud surface. So I could fix the same way. I could just, dial this down, find porcelain, but this time I would like to show you a different method when I will fix it in the design system, and I will visualize it here. But before we do that, let me just show you a few things with the lights, just to make things solid, that we have everything here. And for that, I will use this view, which is for the basins. Here I can clearly see all those three lights that we used before. So I have the three surfaces. I think it's here, with this one. If you click on this one, actually you change the design mode. With this one, you added the lights and lamps. So you will have different options than when you select a chair or something like that. Actually, if I click on the chair, I can't see anything because it has no light source.
Because you're in the light source editing mode.
Yes.
But these light sources are coming from ARCHLine, aren't they?
Yes. I can also add lamps. The software is coming with a built-in lamp library. If this would be a different interior, I would use any of those. Those are pretty light sources. But now, if I would like to change the one that is existing, I have a few options. I can turn them on or off, and as you can see, this tiny mark represents. I can easily see whether this is in effect without seeing the scene itself, because it represents the status as well. I can also change its intensity, and I can change their color, their tone, to make it a bit warmer or something like that here and here. And also I can change how they behave. I mean, originally, by default, all the light sources are so-called helper lights. That means they do not cast any shadow. But still, the effect is quite realistic. But if I would like to kind of make this interior a little bit more solid, I will use this real light effect here and on the other side. And as you can see now, that they are actually here in this scene. This is now it's more obvious than before, because I can see the nice cast shadows. And the reason why the software is not turning this by default on, because this is kind of costly. So you should turn this on only for the light sources that you would like to use it for, kind of emphasis or something like that. So this is what I've done here, and then let me just focus on the camera effects and the sunlight, because those are somehow connected. Now the first thing I will change here, I just go to the camera properties, and let's just clone this view for a while so we can compare what we do. Here I just clone this view. I add it as a new copy. I will name this as night. And now I would like to create a view from this point of view in a daytime scene, and the same for a night scene. So I just move to the view that I named night. As you can see, if I hover over my mouse, you can see this tiny information coming up. It's called night, but it's actually at 13 o'clock, September 2. So I can click here. And so I can click here, and I can change the date, and I can change the time as well. And when I come back, this actually changed this view. It did not change the previous one.
So this is how you make alternatives between two different views. I mean, the same views, but different versions.
Yes, easily. And well, if I want to, and if I would like to make all the views night scene, I can just use this and click on yes to update all the views as night views. I don't want to do that now. That's intentional from my point, because I wanted to have this view with this specific daytime scene, and this view with another one. But for example, I would like to change the field of view. I can change the exposure, make it a little bit more expressive or a little bit darker, change the brightness, contrast, or I can just change the full white balance to make the whole scene, without changing the lights themselves, make the whole scene a little bit more warm. This is, I think it's a good choice for this interior, because we have quite a few warm toned surfaces, so this will make an emphasis on those. So I like this. I change this, and then now comes the thing that I actually would like to apply these changes to all of my other views, because these are too cold. As you can see, these are still with the original settings.
Yes.
And this is intentional. You can, whenever you have a view in ARCHLine, you can change the saturation, the color tone, even the depth of field, which I will show you just in a second, camera by camera, because sometimes you just would like to have one effect on one view, but you don't want it on the other one.
That's right. How do you do that?
So if I just would like to add, for example, a depth of field effect here, I just add it here, or I just use the previous view, which I did before. It's here. So I add the depth of field, and let's just turn the camera around so we can see how depth of field works. Now, if I just pick this icon and I click on this surface, the camera focuses here. So everything is clear here, and everything towards the camera, it becomes a little blurry. Yeah, I can even make it a bit stronger if I change the strength of it. If I just would like to focus on these pillows here, I do that, and then the rest becomes a little bit blurry. Or I can just turn on autofocus, in which case when I turn over my head, I turn over the camera, I can see that nice effect. I'm actually focusing here into the center of the screen, and everything out of that range is blurry. So this is how I control that. But now this effect is only for this night view and not for the rest. And I would like to apply these changes to all of the cameras. Then here on the camera panel, I can see this option, which is for updating all views with the same settings. And then I want to click on yes. Then the software applied those changes here everywhere. And whenever I move my mouse, the views obviously changed. I mean, the camera angle is changing, but the rest is kept, because I just decided to do so. So I have all the same warm tone, white balance everywhere, depth of field enabled, and so on. And should I have another view where I don't want, for example, depth of field or any of those, I just go there, disable that, and on that view I have that disabled, but on the rest, everything is in effect.
How about we add some customized elements, let's say a few items in here? Because we know that ARCHLine Live is customized in a way that you can have objects which would otherwise would make CAD work a bit difficult, because it has many surfaces. For example, plants and bottles and baskets and things like that. So where do we get the objects from, and how do we use them?
Let's add the decorative plant here, because this will be a nice addition here. And here at the left hand side, well, actually the live itself has a nice bathroom category with the objects. So you can find things like cream dispenser and a lot of mirrors, for example, like a nice detailed makeup mirror here, which you can just you can just translate it the way you want, just change its angle to support the visual much better. And also a few images like this seagrass basket here, and just place it here. I would like to make it a little bit larger because I would like to use it throwing the used clothes over there, or used
laundry
towels,
basket.
A laundry basket. So I will just change its size. I will just move my mouse here so you can see that all the axes are highlighted. So when I do that and I move my mouse, let me just do that now. I just move my mouse up so it is a little bit larger like that. And then I just use the move. I can actually switch between those 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, those are the movement, rotation and scale. 1 allows me to place it somewhere on the floor surface and so on. So this is how I change it. The same way I can add, for example, shampoo here, another one, for example, onto this desk, this tiny desk. Let's add another one. I just use number 2 to rotate it a little bit. And then, let's just use a soap dispenser here as well. So I can just use any of my views, focus on the details that I would like to change, and then make those changes. Let me just add, for example, this here, and a nice toothpaste, and for example, a towel. Which I won't change the orientation and so on, but I could do that if I want.
Let's imagine that you invested quite some work into this one and you already
Yep.
added a few details, but now the client gets back to you saying that this is all great, but there are some tiny changes that need to be done in the model. Maybe not so tiny changes, maybe it's something quite major. So how do you change the model and how do you track the changes back to live?
Okay, so for that reason, I will just go back to ARCHLine. I will just use this navigator. So this is on the same computer. I'm still having this file open, and then I did a few changes. Like for example, we discussed with the client that here instead of this surface and here, I would like to add a mosaic tile surface or something like that. So for that reason, I made a little change. I actually added the decorative panel, which has that feature on the surface here, and then I did the same thing here. So let me just turn on the visibility of this one. I just hit OK, so it appears. And then we had another session with the client, and then we decided that here I just would like to add one extra sanitary here. So I just want to change the layout here. And so I just moved this holder somewhere here in the middle. And I just move these two. It actually has a lid as well, so I just select both items. I just put it over there, and then...
Do you want to make a copy of it, or you have a different...
Well, I will use a different item, so I just go to the design center and I just use this. I think it's the trademark would help me. This is it.
Yes,
and then I just click and drag and just place it here. I don't mind where I place it now. I will refine it in the second step.
The material is not the best. So.
Yeah, and the position, so I should elevate it. It should be 0.1. And then, well, many times I just do this method when I would like to match those materials. So I just right click here, hit find material. And once I see the material, I just click and drag and apply. And on this object I just apply this material. So this is what I do. Well, there is one another thing that I wanted to change with this material, and that is that for some reason I've forgotten to turn it into porcelain, and this is a matte surface. So this is also something that I would like to change. This should be porcelain.
Do you have to do this with every single sanitary item? Or?
Well, no, because those materials here are all the same material. So I have actually changed all instances. So now I changed this surface. This is quite an obvious change. I changed this layout here. So now I have two options. Both is the same exactly, actually. If I go here into rendering and I say sync this with ARCHLine.XP Live, that would do exactly the same as this option here. If I'm already in live and I push this button, this is exactly the same, live sync. So if I hit this one, now the software checks what has changed, and it synchronizes those changes, and it's kind of fast because only the changes are synchronized. So everything else was intact, nothing else was changed.
So the objects, for example, that we placed on the right hand side on that
yes.
table, they are still there. Material settings are there as well, but only the new things came in.
Yes. As you can see, I changed this ladder surface, which was much more reflective previously, but it was kept because I did not change anything with that. But everything else, like the reflectivity of this porcelain surface and the new extra surfaces, the new extra item are all there. So this is how you work when something has changed. And well, now we actually focused on kind of geometrical changes, but should that be something with the material? Like, for example, there is another change. We discussed with the client that they like this, but they have another somewhere in a warehouse that in stock, which they really fell in love with. So they wanted to change this surface to something else. Now in live, actually you can create new materials, but whatever you create in live won't be reflected in the original design. So the reason I'm doing it here instead of live only is because I would like to use it also for the documentation. So what I do now, I just go to the libraries. I actually downloaded that already, so it's Marble. And this is the one that we have decided to use with the client. So I just click and drag, release, and I use this option to change it on this surface and on this surface. So I did not change the geometry, I only changed the material.
I see.
But I do the same thing. I go back to live and I just click on live sync, and then the material has changed. And everything else is intact because they did not change.
So the point here to remember is that things are going in a one-way street. So whatever you are creating ARCHLine, you can put it into live and you can refresh the model on and on again, but it doesn't go back.
Yeah.
Because one example that why it's not going back is because in live you can have effects, right?
Yes. Yes, like for example, and let me just focus on that for a little, because here, this actually is a candle, but a little glass. This actually should be glass. I forgot to set it up. So again, I just could go back, change its material types, but this time I will just change the same way I used it before. So I just go to the glass, and I will just use this brown thin glass here. So this is what I do here. But now if I add an extra effect, which is a candle light, this is what you talked about. It's just here in the libraries. The same goes with steam and other things like that. Like those, these are here. I just use the candle fire and I just position it nicely here, and then I have this nice object with all the candle lights.
Is it possible to make copies of this? Because if you would copy the candle, I guess the light would not come with it. So how do you do that?
Well, yes, you have the option to copy it, or let's go even further. You can actually also select these components. I just hold the Control key, and I've selected these, and you can go to the libraries. Now, the difference between these two is one is for the materials, and the other one is for the object, as you can see here. I actually created a library for my own objects. Actually, this is how you can create a new folder. You just click here, it will create a folder, named folder. You just rename it, type the name here, and then you can enter here. So now here, if I would like to, let me just...
Do you have to select the holder as well?
Well, it's selected, but it's glass, so that's why we can't see it's selected, but it's actually selected. So now we have this whole thing with the candle light selected. So now if I would like to save this as it is now into my library, I only need to click on this one, create new item. So now I have that over there. So if I just hit escape to get rid of the selection, and I would like to place a few of them here.
On the floor maybe.
And of course I can also change their name. It's like a glass candle something. And then I just click and drag and release. And I place it. This is how you just do it. You just place them all the copies here, and there are the candle lights. I think I just placed it a little bit off, but I can.
Yes, but you get the idea. The point here is that you can have effects, and for that reason, the model cannot be read back into ARCHLine because the design software especially a BIM software is not able to handle moving parts in this way.
And I wanted to show you another thing with the copy paste, because that's also an obvious question. If you have, for example, I just use this carpet here. I just placed it over there. I use number 2 for rotation, rotate it somehow like this, and I don't have to be so accurate, but it's a position that I like. For example, like this one. Okay, it's somewhere here. So if I just have something selected or multiple things selected, and I hit Control C for copy, and I move my mouse here and I Control V paste it, then I have this second copy, and then I can just make change a little bit,
make it a
little bit more
messy.
realistic. Yeah.
Yes.
So the point here is that I just load this design with a lot of details, nice materials, all the reflections and everything, and then I change the way the views look if I want, and I can add camera properties. And then I will talk a little bit about the surrounding, but if you have anything to add.
No,
here.
I was about to say that it's a little bit barren. So how do you add something to the background?
Well, let me show you a nice little trick. If you have something, well, let's just go back to live. There are 2 ways. I mean, I'm going back to the design system, and here I have visited the 3D warehouse here. And I already downloaded something using a very, very simple keyword. I use background to find this, which I already saved onto my computer, this here. Now, the interesting thing is, this is from 3D Warehouse. This is from where I can see the producer's 3D Warehouse. So this is where I have downloaded from. So as you can see, this is kind of transparent. So this is what I will use. I will place it on my drawing. So let me just go back to the 2D. Let me just show you how this works. I just click and drag, and this is actually like a nice curvy plate representing a tiny bit of the surrounding. And then, well, I will just focus a little bit to the outside so we can see that it's nice, but it's not perfect because it is kind of in a higher position where we would like to use it. So I just select it, and then I just use a value of minus 5 meters or something like that. It's much better now, but there's one more thing that I need to change. It's kind of a nice trick to know about. If you would like to make this work for the first time, you can just go here, find this material, and you can turn this instead of the general material, you can turn this into curtain. Now it seems a bit funny to use this as a curtain, but as you will see, this will do the trick. I changed its transparency to 0 because I have areas that are fully non-transparent, but all the rest is fully transparent. So this is how I use this as a nice trick. So I come back to the 3D view. Let me just use the one that we used before. From here, I cannot see it just because of the transparency, but when I go and sync the changes, let me just go back here.
Again, you could do this from live, you could do this from ARCHLine.
Yes.
The syncing, I mean. So once you do that,
so then it appears, and then it appears behind all your views. So it's not view dependent. It's just as the rest of the things, and then I can still go outside and try to add a few more details, like to kind of blend this obvious background with the foreground. I usually use this foliage painter to either paint a few bushes over there. You will see how nicely that does the trick from this point of view. And then I also go to the libraries, to the let me just turn off the foliage painter. You can also paint real grass surfaces or something like that. And you can also go to the tree libraries and find a few of those, not too large ones, but a few smaller ones. Like I place one here and there. Do you have
to place it one by one, or?
Oh well, I could also use the painter if I want. But now, because now the difference between the foliage painter and this, the foliage painter kind of sprays the surface with many items. If you would like to add individual items, then you would always go with this option. You can also turn on the continuous placement, and then you can just click here and there, and then you have those two items. Now, if I go back to the view that I worked on originally from here. Now it's much better because I have a nice curvy plate and something also moving and living with the wind in the foreground. So if I just further do this, you will see it in the final stage. I just spray a little bit more of those things outside. With a few minutes, I have a nice detailed background, and it supports the visual very, very well.
I noticed that the visuals are sort of outdated because I'm sure that you can't really see the trees and the effects are all different. So how do you refresh all the views that you have created with these changes?
Yeah, well, instead of going to this view and update it manually one by one, because this is what I would do if I want to, I will use this one, which is updating all my existing views. When I click on yes, the software actually goes through all of these views, nicely updates them. And then if I go here and I check the images that I previously saved, now all my images are also updated. So with all the latest changes, I have a little work to do here at this gray area, but if I finish that, I just update the view again, and then I just save this. And as you can see, taking the new snapshots, it's only a matter of seconds to regenerate the whole thing.
Animation is one thing, but we haven't talked about. I mean, we talked about in the beginning how you define an animation path, and we did that before. But how do you retrieve that information? How do you look at the animation?
Well, the animation is already there, at least the one that we already created. And this is the one you can find here in the Play and Edit Animations option here. Well, I have only one animation. This is animation 0. If I just change that and I play it, I can see that this is exactly the same animation that we played in the design system, but with this quality. So if I hit this button, then the software will actually just start taking the photos, and in a few minutes, maximum 2 minutes, this will be a nice full HD video on my computer, which I can upload to wherever I want. But if I want, then I can also create new animations. Now, many times when I already have this nice furnished interior, I realize that it would be nice to have another shot from, for example, when I have, let me just turn this off so we can focus on this one only. So when I, for example, my camera moves from this point to the camera, to the bathtub, and in that case, I just hit this button to create a new animation. This is animation 01. I can also rename it to something else. And then I just move my mouse to, focus on the content which I would like to use as a final frame. And then I just add it as a new keyframe. I use a longer period because 1 second is just quite
it's going to be
fast.
Very fast.
So I just use like 9 seconds or something like that. Let's just check how it works. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, and let's just play how it works. Yeah,
Perfect.
I think it will be nice. And also, if I want to, I can use this this animation list here to handle all my animations as one single large animation and paste transitions between them. So in that case,
so you could have multiple animations.
Yeah, in that case, this is how it will look like. Let me just close this back up.
So it will stitches them together.
Yeah, it will just stitch those animations together.
I understand that we have a finished version of this project. We have a video of it, and we are going to roll it now. And as long as it's rolling, you can ask your questions. I see that some questions are running in, and we have some few that we have to cover. So while we are looking at the video, you can still ask your questions. At the end, we are going to answer them. So just before we look at the video, can you just quickly move around?
Yeah. So this is the final version that we with these tools we added a little bit more of the scattered decorative items and so on. And so this is what we ended up with the different candle set and so on. And there was one thing I wanted to show you, which sometimes comes up as a new question, as a question from our customers, and this is whether I can pass something that I have downloaded from 3D Warehouse from this later when I already have this. Now you have the sync option, obviously.
Yes.
So if I have this bathrobe here, I download it, I paste it here, and I sync again. But there is another option which is kind of similar but different in a way. In that case, you go and download this object. You have it in your libraries here. And that is the, I think I named it bathrobe, so I will just use that key phrase, bathrobe. Yeah, it's there.
There we go.
So instead of placing it here, because perhaps I don't know yet how I would like to use it, I just select it and I click here and I say export to live. Now, instead of syncing the whole scene, I just exported this one single item to live. So it appears in the libraries of live. This is how it got here. So I just find it in the object library, and then there I can find the imported objects. So here is the ball through. So this is how I've got this, and then from that point on I have this item here, and then I can just hang it on surfaces and place them wherever I want. I just remove it.
And just a quick reminder, you can create new folders in the object library of Live. So if you have maybe manufactural items or things like that, you can just bring them in and distribute them.
Yeah,
so
talking about that, talking about that, I can actually cut this from this library, like this here, cut this, and then remember I just created this my objects library. I can just paste it here. Let's just do that. So because I cut it, it's not here already. I just paste it here into the my object. So you can reorganize the content.
So that's how you can import 3D objects from ARCHLine, right?
Yes. And textures.
Yes, we have quite a few other questions. Namely, let me just consult my list. What about the license? So obviously you can work ARCHLine Live on one computer, but what happens if you want to move it to another computer? Which happens because you might want to use one computer in the office and another one when you go to meet your clients. How do you do that? Is that doable, and how do you do that?
Well, when you install Live on the computer and you use your serial number, then you will register it here. And then if you would like to use the same license but at a different time on another computer, you cannot use your license at the same time on two computers. But if you would like to use that same license on two different computers, two different time, then you can just deactivate it. It's like, you have the ignition key and then you just plug it off the car, and then you just go and plug it into the other one. So this is how it works. So the first thing that you first register your serial number, and then if you would like to work with the same serial on another computer, you register it there and deactivate on the other computer. So this is how it works.
But you have to be online for that, right?
Yes, you have to.
Another question: where can we have the complete tutorial of how to use this software? Can you just go back to the menu again? There was a learn.
Tab. You can either use this one, which leads to this website, or if you go to our website here, you can go to the products and ARCHLine.XP Live, and that's the same actually. There are at least two places where you can learn Live. The first one is the Learn Live. It's quite an obvious one. This is where you can find all these are like 2 minutes, very well focused options that focusing on only one thing, like creating materials in Live, camera effects, and so on. Or you can find our webinars that you can also find in the video gallery. And at any time, if you have a question, you can just ask us, send us an email.
Another one. What about the system requirements?
Yeah.
How do I know if I have the right computer for Live?
Well, actually, this is here. The system requirements are there is three most important hardware items in your computer are in case of Live at least, is the RAM, the CPU, and the GPU. Now, as Live is very, very GPU dependent, you need to have at least an average medium graphics card. And if you cannot determine whether your card is good enough or not, we have a nice little helper here, which is with this Passmark software page. If you for example, I know that at home my computer has a GTX 1660. So if I would like to know whether it falls into this range when it's okay, then I go to the Passmark software web page, and then I just search for my card. This is GTX 1660, and I believe I have this one. So I just find it, graphics card, and it tells me that the first number, this is the G3D Mark. This tells me how powerful my graphics card is. And as this is larger than the recommended one, which we have
then
here.
Should be good.
Here in the, for complex design, it should be at least 8,000.
Okay.
So it's okay. So this is how you can determine whether your card is falling into the minimum or complex range where you can design with the software. There are a few things that you should know about, like for example the helper lights and so on. But other than that, it really depends on the card that you have.
Another question, do you provide free student versions? Connected to this question, it's important to say that ARCHLine.XP Live can be used for free for a month to try it.
Yes.
And we also provide non-profit versions, but you can check out the website or you can get in touch with us and we can tell you the details. If you are fortunate enough to attend a university or college where ARCHLine.XP Live is already being educated, then you could ask your tutors. But if you're not coming from that kind of institution, you can talk to us or you can check out the website and then you can see the terms and conditions for that. There's another question about concrete reinforcement tools, but I think that's more concerned about ARCHLine.XP Professional, and we are going to talk about these kind of things at a later session, but we are going to answer that question at a later stage. This is not in connection with live. This live is more about visuals. So if you are thinking more about design and mechanical drawings and things like that, then for that you still have ARCHLine.XP Professional. But when it comes to visuals, live is a good alternative to other.
Also, there was a question what are the differences when I work on an architectural project. Now you will see it in the next session. Many things are similar, but there are a few differences, obviously, which we will focus on next time. And there's usually a question about what sort of external file sources that I can use if I don't have ARCHLine, but I would like to use Live with my own system, then how can I use that? And for that, let me just show you that if you install Live, which is a completely standalone software, you don't need to have anything else on that to be able to work on that. Now you can go to import, and this is where you can find the file formats. And if you are interested, you should visit our webinar next week, which is Wednesday, perhaps.
Thursday. This Thursday.
Sorry, Thursday. No. I mean, I'm talking about the
for the 15th. One. Yes, I got lost with the questions that you're still asking. That's very good. We are going to answer them shortly. Wednesday, the 15th of July.
Yeah. Well, it's important because if you are a SketchUp user, you will find interesting things for yourself in that next week session with the file formats and how you can work with that.
Just one last question here. Any progress with animation of vehicles and people on drive walk paths? We do already have some objects. Well, if we can call people objects, I don't want to do that. But the point is that we have some elements in the software which are moving already. For example, we have some human figures. But in our development plan, obviously, there are ideas to make vehicles driving by, so sort of bring a city to life. That would come at a later stage. For now, we are focusing on making connection with other software products seamless. So we want to make sure that you can take advantage of the solutions you already have. So we are not saying that ARCHLine Live should override the solutions that you're using. Instead, it should fit right into the tools that you already are familiar with.
And the point is that if you would like to, if you have at least a medium able graphics card, and you would like to have lightning fast visuals that you can easily and quickly respond to the changes of your client's mind, then Live is the one that you should go with. It's affordable, easy to install, easy to use, and we have quite a lot of tutorials, just as this one and the others that you can jump into and start using it. If you have a question, don't hesitate to ask. Even if this session now we are live, but if you watch this later, then you just leave a comment below. We will see that. And we will also answer that.
And I did promise the viewers the finished version, so that's what we're rolling now. Very impressive. Good work. So if you're looking for something more architecture related, maybe you want to know how to populate your plans with vehicles, surrounding, more trees, more foliage, then for that we have a show this Thursday, and we are going to look at how to feel an architectural project with Live. If you have any questions what we haven't answered, feel free to leave a comment. And until next time, happy designing, and see you on Thursday, hopefully.
And if you like this content, like us.
Obviously, like and subscribe to the channel so you're not going to miss any of the shows that we have planned for the future. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.
Goodbye.